The first story. The first one is the title story, and it starts like this. Let me back up a bit. 2 years ago, after saving every penny I could from my job as a structural engineer, I finally had enough for a down payment on my first home. The housing market was brutal, so when I found a fixer-upper within my budget, I jumped on it. The place needed work, sure, but structural issues are my bread and butter. The property sat just outside an upscale community, separated by a small creek that ran along the back of my lot. My side of the creek was technically part of the county, while their side belonged to the city limits. This natural boundary wasn't just geographic, it was jurisdictional. Their neighborhood had those fancy stone entrance markers, manicured common areas, and homes that started at 3 times what I paid for mine. Before making any renovations, I did my homework. I spent weeks researching county building codes, pulling property records and drafting plans that would transform my modest ranch into something with character while staying within budget. The centerpiece of my renovation was going to be a detached workshop where I could tinker with woodworking projects, a passion I developed but never had space to pursue. The workshop would sit at the back corner of my property, visible from only a few homes across the creek. I designed it to match the aesthetic of my renovated home with the same roof line and complementary materials. Nothing garish or out of place, just a well-designed 600-foot structure with good insulation and plenty of natural light. After getting my plans approved by the county, I scheduled delivery of materials and rented the equipment I'd need. The weekend before work was set to begin, I was out staking the workshop location when an expensive SUV slowed down in front of my house. The driver stared at me for an uncomfortably long time before driving away. I thought it was odd, but didn't think much of it until the following Tuesday. That morning, I found an official-looking envelope taped to my front door. Inside was a letter on fancy letterhead, reading the Homeowners Association of the Estates. The letter started with, "It has come to our attention that you are planning construction that violates multiple provisions of our community guidelines." It went on to list specific violations including unapproved outbuilding construction, aesthetic inconsistency with community standards, and potential obstruction of protected views. The final paragraph was what really got me. All construction must cease immediately. Failure to comply will result in fines of $200 per day and potential legal action. All exterior modifications must be submitted for board approval using the enclosed form. I was confused. I didn't belong to any HOA. I hadn't signed any contracts or agreements when purchasing my home. The property records clearly showed I was outside their jurisdiction. This had to be a mistake. I called the number listed on the letterhead and reached the HOA management company. The conversation went something like this. "Hi, I received this letter about construction on my property, but there must be some confusion. I don't live in your community." The woman on the phone sounded bored. "What's your address?" I gave it to her. "Yes, that's within our jurisdiction. All homes in the area are subject to the covenant restrictions." "No, that's not correct. My property is across the creek in the county." "Sir, the HOA boundaries include all properties adjacent to the community. You'll need to submit your plans for approval or face penalties." "That's not how property law works. I never signed any covenant agreements." She sighed like I was being difficult. "You should read the letter carefully and comply with the requirements. The board is very serious about enforcement." After hanging up, I pulled out my property documents again to double-check. Nothing in my deed mentioned an HOA. Just to be sure, I called my real estate agent, who confirmed that my property was definitely not part of any homeowners association. Instead of getting angry, I decided to be neighborly. I wrote a polite email to the HOA board explaining the misunderstanding and attached a copy of my county-approved permits. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. The response came from the HOA president himself. The email was condescending at best, threatening at worst. He claimed their covenants had area jurisdiction and that my unattractive industrial structure would diminish property values throughout the community. He strongly suggested I reconsider my plans if I wished to maintain good relations with my neighbors. Something felt off about the whole situation. Why would they care so much about a workshop that only a few houses could even see? I decided to take a walk along the creek to get a better perspective. From the creek bank, I could see about 5 houses on the other side whose backyards faced my property. The largest and most prominent belonged to someone who clearly spent a fortune on professional landscaping. Their multi-level deck had an unobstructed view across the creek, and right in the line of sight would be my future workshop. Later that day, I started chatting with my neighbor 2 doors down. We'd only spoken briefly since I moved in, but he seemed friendly enough. When I mentioned the strange HOA letter, his expression changed. "Oh man, you've caught the attention of the HOA president. That big house across the creek, that's his place. He's been pulling this stunt for years." According to my neighbor, the HOA president had a history of using the association to enforce his personal preferences. Several houses on our side of the creek had received similar letters over the years. Most people, intimidated by the official letterhead and threat of legal action, had simply complied rather than fight it. Last year, the family at the end of the street wanted to put in an above-ground pool for their kids. Somehow, their permit application got denied 3 times with different reasons each time. They eventually gave up. When I asked how the permit could get denied if we weren't under HOA jurisdiction, my neighbor lowered his voice. The HOA president has a cousin who works in the county permit office. Nothing gets proven, but things have a way of getting complicated for people he doesn't like. This information changed everything. What started as a misunderstanding now looked like a deliberate attempt to control property beyond their legal boundaries. I decided to document everything and seek professional help. The next morning, I was measuring my yard when I noticed someone taking photos of my property from the street. When I approached them, they quickly got into their car and drove away. Later that afternoon, a county inspector showed up, claiming they'd received a complaint about unauthorized construction. When I showed him my approved permits, he seemed surprised but checked them thoroughly before leaving. Things escalated over the next week. My materials delivery was mysteriously canceled. When I called the supplier, they said they'd received a call claiming the delivery address was incorrect. I started finding official-looking violation notices stuck to my fence or mailbox, all citing HOA regulations I wasn't subject to. The final straw came when I arrived home to find 2 people in polo shirts with the HOA logo actually on my property, measuring the area where my workshop would go. When I confronted them, they claimed they were documenting the violation. I told them they were trespassing and needed to leave immediately. They argued but eventually left when I started recording them with my phone. Time to fight back properly, I scheduled a consultation with a real estate attorney who specialized in HOA disputes. After reviewing my documents and the letters I'd received, her assessment was clear. This is a clear case of misrepresentation and potential harassment. The HOA has absolutely no legal authority over your property. She helped me draft a formal cease and desist letter to the HOA board, the management company, and specifically to the president. The letter outlined the legal boundaries of their jurisdiction, cited the relevant property law, and demanded they stop all communication regarding my property. It also noted that any further harassment would result in legal action for misrepresentation and potential interference with my property rights. While waiting for a response, I did some research of my own. At the county records office, I reviewed the official HOA documents. The original development plans clearly showed the creek as the boundary of their jurisdiction. However, in their more recent filings, they had started including a sphere of influence that mysteriously extended to several properties on my side of the creek. This wasn't just about my workshop anymore. This was about an organization intentionally overstepping its authority to control properties. They had no right to govern. I didn't receive a direct response to my cease and desist letter. Instead, my permit application for the workshop was suddenly flagged for additional review at the county office. When I called to ask why the clerk stammered something about community concerns, but couldn't provide specifics, I met with a senior building official and brought all my documentation, including the threatening HOA letters and the original development plans showing the boundaries. He seemed genuinely concerned about what I showed him. This isn't the first time we've heard complaints about this particular HOA, but nobody's ever brought in this level of documentation before, he admitted. After reviewing everything, he approved my permit on the spot and made notes in my file to prevent further interference. Meanwhile, my attorney discovered something interesting. The HOA had been sending official correspondence to the county referencing properties outside their jurisdiction as if they were part of their community. In some cases, they'd even filed liens against properties for failure to pay HOA dues, despite having no legal right to do so. Armed with this information, we took a 2-pronged approach. First, we filed a formal complaint with the State Real Estate Commission regarding the HOA misrepresentation. Second, we prepared documentation for all affected homeowners, explaining their actual legal status and rights. The day construction on my workshop finally began, I noticed increased activity across the creek. People would stop and watch, take photos, or gather in small groups pointing at my property. I ignored them and focused on the work. 2 days into construction, the HOA president himself appeared at my door. He was a tall man with perfectly manicured nails and the kind of tan people pay for. Without introducing himself, he launched into a speech about community standards and how my monstrosity was going to ruin the neighborhood. I let him finish before responding. I've been very patient, but I need to be clear. My property is not in your HOA. Your organization has no authority here. The construction is legal and permitted. Any further interference will result in legal consequences. His face wrined. Do you have any idea who I am? I've lived here for 15 years and built this community into what it is today. People like you move in and think you can do whatever you want without considering how it affects established residents. What affects established residents is when someone misrepresents their authority and tries to control properties illegally. I replied, I have documentation of your HOA claiming jurisdiction over properties. It doesn't govern. That's fraud. He stepped closer, attempting to intimidate me with his height. You'll regret this. Nobody wins against our association. As he turned to leave, I called after him. By the way, I've shared information about your tactics with all the other homeowners you've been falsely claiming authority over. They're very interested to learn they don't actually owe you dues or need to follow your rules. That hit a nerve. He stopped but didn't turn around. After a moment, he continued to his car and drove away. The construction progressed smoothly after that, though not without some strange incidents. Anonymous complaints to various county departments resulted in multiple inspections, all of which my project passed. Someone reported a non-existent water leak that resulted in utility workers digging up part of my yard. Small annoyances, but nothing that stopped the work. 3 weeks later, I received an unexpected visitor. A woman from across the creek introduced herself as a member of the HOA board. Unlike previous interactions, she seemed genuinely friendly. I wanted to apologize for the way you've been treated, she said. Some of us on the board had no idea this was happening. When we received your attorney's letter and documentation, it caused quite a stir. She explained that several board members had requested an emergency meeting after learning about the complaint filed with the Real Estate Commission. During that meeting, they discovered the president had been acting unilaterally in many cases, including sending unauthorized letters to non-HOA properties. We've been getting calls from homeowners on this side of the creek, saying they've been paying dues for years thinking they had to. She continued, the potential liability is enormous. The board has asked for the president's resignation. Her visit marked a turning point. The harassment stopped completely. My workshop was completed 2 weeks later, looking exactly as I'd planned, a handsome structure that complemented my renovated home. The aftermath brought several positive changes. The State Real Estate Commission opened a formal investigation into the HOA practices. The president not only resigned from the board, but put his house on the market shortly after. Apparently, the possibility of personal liability for misrepresentation made staying untenable. Several of my neighbors who had been falsely told they were under HOA jurisdiction formed an informal neighborhood group to share information and resources. We now have regular cookouts and help each other with projects, a much healthier community dynamic than being ruled by arbitrary restrictions. My attorney helped these neighbors file for refunds of incorrectly collected dues, which the new HOA board agreed to pay to avoid further legal complications. The HOA also officially redrew their maps to accurately reflect their legal boundaries, filing corrected documents with the county. As for my workshop, it's become something of a neighborhood feature. I've hosted several woodworking classes for interested neighbors from both sides of the creek. Even some residents from the HOA community have commented positively on how well it fits with the surroundings. The final irony, property values in the area have increased partly due to the improvements I made to my once neglected house. What the former HOA president feared would decrease values actually enhance them. Sometimes I see the new HOA board president walking along the creek. She waves when she sees me, working in the yard or in my workshop with the doors open. It's a small gesture, but represents a complete shift in the relationship between our communities. The lesson in all this: know your rights, do your research, and don't be intimidated by those who try to exert authority they don't legally possess. And maybe most importantly, document everything. Without those letters, emails, and photographs, it would have been much harder to prove what was happening. Standing up to bullies isn't just about protecting yourself. It's about protecting others who might not have the knowledge or resources to fight back. In the end, I not only got my workshop, but helped restore proper boundaries between an overreaching HOA and the independent homeowners they've been wrongfully controlling. That's a renovation project worth celebrating. The next one is entitled People Story. To be honest, I have done this in the past. I have taken pre-hired drug tests for him. I hated doing it, but I did it. We look enough alike on his DL that we pull it off. And people at those clinics are more busy making sure you don't sneak something in your pants than with ID pick. My brother asked me first because he knew he was going to apply a couple of months ago. I said no and told him to get clean, and he got pissed at me. Then got my mom to take his side, and here we are. I hate doing this because I hate that I'm doing something illegal, and I hate that my brother won't stop smoking weed long enough to get a good job. I have nothing against weed, I just don't smoke. I hate how lazy and irresponsible he is. I would have to fly out and miss some school, but my mom is threatening to revoke my work permit. I work at a burger place part-time. I love my job, but I can only keep it if my GPA stays high, and my mom and my guidance counselor sign a permission slip. Don't want to do anything illegal anymore. Don't want to keep bailing out my brother. I hate doing this, period. My mom also threatened to kick me out of the house, but I think that one is a bluff. I would have to fly out Sunday, and I have a big chemistry test on Monday. I feel like I have no way out. This sucks. Let me know if any good ideas come to mind to help me do the best thing. Update: it didn't go too well for me. My mom dropped me at the airport. I didn't get on the plane. I just sat there when they called for my plane to board. The airline lady asked me if I wanted to board because she saw I was the only one left in the waiting area. I felt scared, I'm not going to lie. That was the hardest moment of my life by far. The crap hit the fan when my brother found out I wasn't getting off the plane that night. He went to pick me up at the airport. My mom called and called until finally she just texted me to not come home. I spent the night at the airport and I took the bus to school on that Monday. I took my chemistry test and totally bombed it. I got a C and wish I go have a do-over on that, because I know all that stuff. I don't know what happened there. I got fired from my job because my mom revoked my permission slip to work. I spoke to my boss, but there was nothing he could do to keep me working for him. He said he respects me and that he would hire me when I'm 18, but nothing he can do now. I don't live at home anymore. I got kicked out. That whole thing was bad. My self-esteem is in the dumps because I don't like staying at my friend's house where I stay now. Sometimes I think that all I had to do is take the stupid drug test and everything would be fine. Now Thanksgiving is coming, and it's weird not having a place or a family to have that holiday with. I thought it would all blow over by now, but it hasn't. My mom is more angry about this than I thought. She moved and rented another house, so my old house is done. To me, it makes a difference. Honestly, I would love to say, hey, I did the right thing, and it's all good. But it's not that easy. I'm lost for now. At least I don't know how to move on without a home to go home to. I have to confess that I wish my mom would call me and tell me I was right. It's just not that easy to just leave your family behind. So anyway, I don't know what else to say. I have my clothes and my books and my school stuff. I'll finish off the year. I'm wishing time will fly by and I can start college and just try to move on. Sometimes I feel like I made a mountain out of a molehill. I ducked everything up, but I can't wait to have kids so I can help them do the right things without punishing them. That's the one thing I can know I will for sure do when I have kids. For now, things suck and they're hard. Being kind of homeless sucks. Staying at somebody else's house is not the same as having your own bed. The next one is entitled People Story. Title: I let a bar in my town borrow 2 pieces of my art, and when I went to pick them up, the owner said he didn't know what happened to them and that it's likely they were stolen. Any advice? So the title sums it up fairly well. I've struggled for years to get my art into local galleries around town, but the financial strain of submission fees has made it almost impossible. So I stupidly let a bar restaurant owner borrow my art for their wall. This was a little less than a year ago after they saw it on display at a vendor market. we hosted on the pavement outside the establishment. The owner really liked my stuff and wanted to put it up, but he didn't want to buy it. I know it was stupid, but I'd been drinking that day and was desperate for someone to enjoy my art at the time. Anyway, fast forward to now, I went to the bar with a few friends the other day and noticed that my art wasn't where it normally was. Saw the owner there, and my buddy is good friends with him, so we went up and asked about it. He basically said that he didn't even notice they were gone. When I described the pieces, he essentially said, "Oh yeah, I love those paintings. Yeah, they were probably stolen IDA key." Paraphrasing here, I told him how important they were to me, and he was unapologetic about the whole affair. When I tried to make a deal with him, he appreciated my gumption to ask, but was uninterested in making it right. Is there anything at all that I can do, or am I screwed in these paintings, gone forever? Would love some advice on this. Super worried someone in town snatched and destroyed one or both. For context, I live in a pretty religious town, and one of the paintings was a gay couple update. So I recommend checking out my previous post from our advice for the original story. Lots of comments saying the situation was a lost cause and to chalk it up to a good life lesson. Well, we'll see how lost this cause is. I know someone with experience dealing with the law, so they helped me take the next step. After I read and considered all the comments on my last post, I went to the bar and talked to one of the bartenders who knows me and asked if they knew anything about the paintings. They said, "No, I have no idea what happened to them, but we all love them. They were amazing. I didn't know you were such a good artist." I resisted rolling my eyes at the flattery, but moving on, I asked if the owner was there, and they said, "Yep, he's sitting inside." Died, so I went and spoke with the owner about whether he had checked the storage rooms for the paintings like he promised, and he said that they weren't in there. What the owner didn't know is I had a letter in my pocket for them that basically laid down an ultimatum. Pay me for the lost, stolen paintings or return them by a set date. Well, I was nerve-wracked the whole weekend after hand delivering that letter. This dude and his brother run about 4 restaurants in my town, so there's no slouch when it comes to business dealings. And needless to say, I was full of anxiety. On Tuesday the 23rd, I got a text from the owner's brother saying, and I quote, "We have your paintings on site. They were put in storage as we were decorating for the holidays." Very convenient. I was so excited when I got this text, though. The owner had me convinced they were stolen, mind you. So to know they were safe and sound despite being lied to my face, I was ecstatic. I went Wednesday to pick them up from the restaurant. And when I went to talk to the bartender, a different one than the previously mentioned one, they said something along the lines of, "I saw your friend's post about them being missing." And I was like, that's weird. They're right here in the storage room. I played along to be polite because I still didn't have the paintings in hand yet, but my gut knew the whole staff was in on this. BS, every single person's story has been different so far. Long story short, I have my paintings back. I've lost all respect for one of my favorite bars, and I've learned a valuable lesson about getting everything in writing. To the naysayers who told me I had no legal recourse, I hope you all have learned a valuable lesson as well. Your property is your property, period. To all the people who encouraged me to go legal, I salute you. I didn't have to go to court or go to the police, but this letter definitely scared the crap out of these dudes. Thanks everyone for commenting on my last post, and hope you all rest easy, knowing the paintings are home now. The next one is entitled People Story. So this feels crazy to me even asking this, but I just need some kind of confirmation or perspective on not seeing. I live with my girlfriend. Every Friday is pizza night. We either order some Domino's or I pick up Papa Murphy's. She loves pizza night because during the week we are pretty strict with our diet and exercise. So Friday nights are pop, pizza, move, and it's a treat. I get off of work at 5, she gets off at 6. So if I'm picking up the pizza, then I get it on the way home. Yesterday, it was my duty to pick up the pizza. I stayed after work for another 40 minutes talking to my brother about business ideas because we own our business and it's really helpful to brainstorm. After we close, I work 25 minutes from the house. She works 20 minutes from the house. I ordered the pizza from Papa Murphy's. You have to bake it yourself at home for 15 minutes at 5 and plan to leave work at 5:40 with the intent on getting the pizza and being home in time to throw it in the oven and have it be done within 5 to 10 minutes after she walked in the door. Well, I get the pizza and there is a traffic accident on the freeway. It delays me 15 minutes. When I get home, which is about 2 minutes after she did, she is all, I'm really disappointed that you didn't get the pizza here faster. You know how important it is, etc. I explained to her that there was a traffic accident and that I planned to be here in time to have it done. She then goes on a rant saying I should have left right at 5 so that I would for sure get the pizza here in time and have it ready for her when she got home. Keep in mind, I brought this pizza back basically every week for the past month, and I either have it totally ready or at least in the oven by the time she gets home. Somehow, though, the times when it was just in the oven were me being late then too, and she brought that up as more evidence that I'm terrible. Anyway, I go into the bedroom to be alone so that I don't have to hear her ranting. She won't drop it, though, and comes in there after 5 minutes to continue idiotating about her pizza and how I shouldn't be upset because she's the one that was disappointed. I tell her, fine. I'm leaving for a while because I don't want to sit here and hear this after I just sat in traffic for 40 minutes getting this thing for her. She then flips out and tells me I shouldn't come back if I'm leaving, chases me out the door and screams for me to pack my things and take them with me before I go, etc. I ignore this and tell her she is acting like a child and that it's like watching a 2-year-old have a tantrum. I come back 3 hours later and she has a suitcase and a bag of clothes thrown out in the driveway. No texts or calls, just that. I slept at my office and now I'm not really sure what to do here. Am I missing something here where I wasn't being sensitive? Do I just wait for an apology and then if it isn't forthcoming, I should walk? It seems like insanity to me, but maybe I'm missing something. Edit. So I finally texted her this afternoon and she said she was pissed because I ignored her, was acting cold after she idioted at me when I went into the bedroom to defuse the situation I was there for under 5 minutes before she came in to continue fighting about it. When I left, she says, I told you that if you left, you could never come back. You still left. Now she says it's up to me if I want to still be together. I told her that me being required to be in her presence while she rants at me is abuse. I can leave if I want to. In fact, the week prior, she specifically told me I should leave for a little while when she starts acting crazy because she ends up saying things she doesn't mean. So I literally followed her advice this time, and now she says I'm basically required to stay at her side while she rages at me. Ugh, I feel like it's time to move on because I know she won't get help for this, and I know it's just going to keep happening. It's just so hard because I do still love her, and if she would just be willing to get help, I would have hope. Update. After some more texting, she admitted that she owed me an apology and asked me to come back and talk. As soon as I walked in, she had a sheepish look and apologized and said she knows something is wrong with her, but she isn't sure what it is and really doesn't want to have to take medication. That's when I brought up the fact that we both already knew her sister has a very severe case of borderline personality disorder. Her sister is very intelligent, yet often homeless, has been married 5+ times at 35 years old, thinks no one loves her and everyone persecutes her for her political views, etc. I never thought my GF had this disorder, though, because her sister was so severe in comparison that I never really stopped and paid attention to a lot of the things that she does do that still hit a lot of the major criteria: major fears of abandonment from childhood, stormy relationships with men, few friends viewing me as perfect when she's happy and terrible, when she's upset, extreme sensitivity to criticism, past issues with bulimia, crazy P, paranoid E, unfounded, no evidence, thoughts about what I think of her when she is upset, and a cycle of shame, G, guilt about the things she does to avoid emotional pain and dealing with the consequences of her actions. Anyway, she was curious enough about it to go and look this up on the computer, take a basic psych test to see if it's possible. She scored in the likely score range, even with some answers that I thought were denying reality. I kept quiet while she took it, though. That would have scored her higher. After that, she looked into what treatment was available. I know she absolutely does not like the idea of counseling. So I suggested books, and she agreed to at least start with that. So I feel like this is a positive step forward where I was feeling hopeless before she realizes she has a problem, and now I'm just anxious about whether she will take the book seriously and really work on understanding why she acts this way. Sometimes 95% of the time I'm with her is wonderful and she is amazing. But this 5% of when she cannot handle stress or minor issues and they turn into huge blowups is very difficult. One of her suggestions on what would make her feel better when she does this is if I pretended to be concerned, even if it is a trivial issue. She said it doesn't even matter if I have to grit my teeth and lie to her. It will make her feel better than when I walk away. I don't think she realized it when she said it, but we do the same thing to her sister when her sister's saying crazy stuff too. Overall, I'm much more hopeful now, but at the same time realistic that she has thus far not really done anything to help herself. And reading books could help, but not in the same way a counselor could. I think I'm hoping that if she reads these books and realizes a lot of it rings true with her, maybe she will be more open to counseling. Quick edit. I know a lot of you said it wasn't about the pizza. In a way, you were right. In a way, not. She was much more upset by the fact that I wanted to go in my room rather than stay and listen to her ranting about that. Someone with BPD is apparently much more short-fused when you're not giving them attention when they need it. So a minor issue about pizza turns into crazy love, may care about me ramblings. It really was as simple as the pizza being late, and my avoidance reaction set off her insanity. Final update. Well, I just couldn't make it work with her anymore. I didn't want to talk about it in the original post, but she had cheated on me multiple times already, and I caught her doing more stuff. She told me she was just seeing her ex once in a while as a friend, but I caught texts she had sent him where he was mad that she wasn't getting sexual with him enough, and that she only saw him once every couple of weeks. So she must be seeing another guy and accusing her of lying about whether she is single or not. She replied to him saying she is single and wasn't looking for other guys, etc., but that she found out he was on a dating site and looking for other girls, so she was mad about that. That combined with other things that have just always been problems has led me to the realization that I will never be able to do enough for her to be happy, and that there is no version of reality where I can trust her enough to get married and have kids, or where I can go on a weekend trip and not worry that she's out with another guy while I'm gone. I told her last night that we need some time apart, and she predictably flew into a rage and told me to get the F out, and said if I didn't take all of my stuff, she would throw it away. I told her if she wanted to be a baby about it and do that, she could. But I wasn't going to pack up the entire house full of my stuff while she is raging at me. So I took my necessities and left. She apologized today and said she wouldn't throw out my stuff. But I'm currently in a motel and looking for an apartment tomorrow. I think my mental state has been warped pretty badly by this relationship, and I'm looking forward to resetting. I haven't pursued my hobbies or tried to make friends in a long time, because every spare moment was spent with her and trying to make sure she didn't feel like I wasn't giving her enough attention. I would get anxious if I was running late, coming home from work, because I was worried she would be really upset. Most of all, I just felt like I was dealing with someone that doesn't think about things like I do and doesn't have the sense of morality that I do. I'll never really know if it was BPD because she refused to go to counseling, and nothing I could do or say would make her go. I hope someday she is happy, but I fear she is in for a lot of short-term relationships where guys are initially thrilled to be with her. But then when they aren't perfect in some way, that's when the ship will hit the rocks again, and there's no recovery from it, because she takes no responsibility for repairing the damage she causes, and only builds up resentment that she isn't treated like a princess regardless of how she treats you. Edit. I am reading all of your replies, so even if I don't respond, I really do appreciate the kind words and constructive opinions. I'm actually having a bit of a laugh right now, because the more I read and write about the crap that went on, I realize what a huge drain on my mental energy this has been. I own a business, and part of what makes or breaks an entrepreneur is coming up with good ideas that help the business grow. My mind has been in a fog for so long that I haven't put as much energy into that as I should have been. But luckily for me, and maybe this is a sign if there is a higher power, my salary basically went from $50,000 to $250,000 in the past couple of weeks because of a good idea that worked well. So I've got that to help cheer me up. Are you hungry for more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to never miss out on any videos. See you tomorrow at Story.